moving forward, we have Cimi-Shield. And what you have is a green bed bug eliminator. It is a 25B exempt, and it's a suspension, and it's going to be killing bed bugs and similar insects on contact. And what this product does is leave a residual on fabrics, textiles, things of that sort, and cracks and crevices that are liquid appropriate for a full year. Now, in some of the magazines, PMP, you've been seeing ads like this. In this particular case, we have a gentleman from EnviroSafe. This is Bob Lee in Arizona. And right there at the top is the essence of the whole ad. With Cimi-Shield, we get callbacks we like. Repeat business, not repeat demands and demands for retreatments. So he's a pretty happy guy with this stuff. These are some gentlemen from Virginia. And once again, these guys are having excellent results with the product. And right there, it says, we've tried most of the bed bug control options out there. Many trials. We are successful, profitable, and avenging these blood-sucking pests thanks to Cimi-Shield Knockout and heat treatments followed by Cimi-Shield Protect. So another very satisfied user. And we're getting more and more people contact us all the time with those same type of comments. Now, this is the handout or the information sheet that we have in partnership with Univar. And this very simply talks about the product, gives some of its features, that it kills on contact, it's not toxic, it's going to harm the environment. It is derived from soybean oil. Soybean oil is the source for the polypeptide protein that is the active ingredient.
Non-toxic made from soybean oil.
Yes. It is not. It is actually derived from soybean oil. That's where the polypeptide protein is extracted from. That's why it's on the label that way. And what it does is take the waxy layer off the insect. It has very little odor, if any. I call it zero. It won't stain. It's easily applied with a pump sprayer. We sell it as a concentrate that you mix with distilled water. Once again, 25B exempt. It is regarded as green and gives you the 12 months residual on a variety of surfaces. Now, the packets themselves that you get when you order it. And I've got one right here in my hands. You can get an idea of the size of it. And when it's all mixed up and ready for use, it's roughly the color of iced coffee. Because if you leave these packets set, the particulate that's inside is going to separate out, and it's a suspension. So you have to keep it mixed up so you can get into your sprayer. Okay, moving ahead, you see what the concentrate packages look like. Those are 6 ounces apiece. Now, we're going to mix that concentrate with distilled water. And distilled water is something that goes back a long way in the industry. When I first started out years ago, I was always instructed to use distilled water so my chemicals were more pure and wouldn't pick up junk and speck up my customers' baseboards and carpet in those days. The reason we use distilled water today with Cimi-Shield is because we want a pure water source. Hard water and water conditions with chlorine and everything else in a lot of the water systems will denature the product. And so we found by mixing with distilled water that problem is eliminated because we don't know the water sources around the country. So it's simpler to put it with distilled water. Now, the material will kill on contact, once again leaving that residual for 12 months, and it takes the waxy layer off the insect, it gets holes in it, and the internal fluid dries out and the insect dies. Now, it's good for 1 year when applied to fabrics, including bedding, carpets, furniture, and drapes. It's also good in cracks and crevices appropriate for liquid. So if you've got cracks and crevices around baseboards and that type of thing, you've got raw wood inside with an interesting surface in there, the Cimi-Shield will coat all those areas and make it available for the insects to pick up. Now, what it does, the porous carriers are in these bags of material. And right now, that's all in suspension with the liquid. And they're going to carry the active over a long period of time, a year, and give us that long-term residual. The carrier particulate itself is little 10-micron pieces, and that's just a representative photo there. And those little pieces become enmeshed in the fabric. And then after it dries, they're reservoirs for the active ingredient. Then when the nymphs hatch or the adults are introduced, they crawl through that material, picking up the little chunks of product on their bodies. And as they move around, it's releasing active ingredient onto the surface of the insect. And that'll just start taking the waxy layer off. It's effective against all known strains of bed bugs, and it's essentially a mechanical action because it breaks the bond between the waxy layer and the body, and it comes off. So there isn't any resistance that we know of. The materials are generally regarded as safe or GRAS. The product is also exempt from EPA registration under FIRPA 25B. Now, in some states, you are still required to have the product registered with the state in that category. And the reason for that is, I think in many cases, it's a revenue stream for the state. And I think we can expect more of that as more and more products are put out there that are 25B. The product is safe for both the clients and the applicators. It's not toxic to humans or animals. It's ideal for sites where you have compromised situations. You may have a day not going to have any odor, and it's water-based and not prone to staining. Now, the reason we say not prone is because we all know that water will stain certain things, silk, for example. So therefore, if you've got a silk area, don't spray the product on there because you're going to get stains on it the same as you would from water. Now, we know that bed bugs are going to get resistant to various products over time. With a mechanical situation like Cimi-Shield, we don't see that happening, and it keeps on working long after the application has been made, so it's reducing callbacks. And on those fabric surfaces, there's nothing else that'll give this long-term residual. On hard surfaces, however, time residual because the insects will walk over the top of it. And in fact, if you're using it and you spray an upholstered piece of furniture that maybe has wooden arms or metal edges on it or something, let it dry, and then go back and just wipe the residual off of that hard surface. It'll come right off with a rag, because that's all little pieces of particulate that'll be enmeshed in the fabric, and there's no way to hold them on that hard, smooth surface. So just wipe them off. They're not going to do you any good there. Now, the material is delivered to you as 6 ounces of liquid, and you're going to mix this with the distilled water. And once again, it has to be distilled water. Don't go putting this with tap water, because we don't know the content of tap water, and we know that with distilled water we're not going to have any issues. The sprayer should be new. It should not have any other soap or pesticide residue in it, and it should not have a filter. Now, those type of precautions, popping out filter, no other residue, no soaps, are also the precautions we had years ago for wettable powders. So people that are familiar with wettable powders such as Ficam from years ago, you've been through this drill before. Now, 1 gallon of product will treat 1,200 square foot of surface area. That's going to vary depending upon what your situation is. For example, if you're in a hotel room with a carpeted floor and furniture, you're going to use more than if it was a hotel room with all that furniture and a tile floor, because you're simply not going to need to spray the carpet zones under the bedding and the furniture and that type of thing. So it's 1,200 square foot of surface that you can treat. The product has a 2-year shelf life after you've mixed it. You just have to remember to shake it to get all the particulate into suspension before you begin putting it out with your sprayer. Now, the active ingredient is a polypeptide protein, and as I said before, it's extracted from soybean oil. This same type of compound is used for the immersion of human implants. So if you were going to get a knee or a hip or something like that, they would immerse that joint that's going to go inside of your body in this type of solution that coats the outside of the joint, and then any microbes that try and attack it will be killed. So when they put it inside of you, it's clean. And this, of course, is a human health issue, but that's really what this product is derived from, because it turns out that it also takes the waxy layer off insects, and also insects that are similar to bed bugs, such as cockroaches. Now, we don't want to freeze this material, and we want to exceed 140 degrees with this material. And frankly, a lot of products we use, we don't want to freeze them and we don't want to overheat them. It's just with this, we try and give you all the precautions. And you don't tank mix this with anything else. So those folks that were used to adding Gentrol or something like that, don't do it here. If you're if you're a company that uses those types of products and you want to put some extra pressure on the population because that's your protocol, that's fine. Just don't mix it with the Cimi-Shield and don't spray it over the Cimi-Shield. You can simply put it in a different zone and you'll get to the same place. Now, does anybody have any questions right now? Because I'll move ahead if not. Okay. Now, the packaging and the shipping of the material. What you're going to be getting is an insul foam box inside of a U.S. Postal Service priority box. That's how we ship it. And we watch our shipping days carefully to be sure that the post office isn't going to park the box someplace over a weekend. So we're very careful about that. And if you're ordering this material, we like it to be ordered to be shipped to a site, an actual place where there's people. I did have an order placed one time for Cimi-Shield that went to a university for the dormitories. Unfortunately, they shipped it in, and the receiver simply put it in a lockup cage on the dock, except it was 30 below zero in the wintertime, and it froze solid because they didn't get it out of there till Monday. So we like it to go to a physical location, to an office. When you receive the material, inside of that box, there is a heat pack in there, and that's the same type of heat pack they use when they ship pharmaceuticals. There's also a little card that looks like this, and I think my next slide may have it. And this is a thermal marker. And this is exactly what they use when they ship pharmaceutical products. There's a place that indicates cold and a place that's heat. And this way you know when you receive it that your product was received in pristine shape. It wasn't held someplace where it shouldn't have been, and it survived the trip. And as I say, we also put a heat pack inside the box to maintain the temperature so that when you do get it, we know it hasn't been frozen. Now, when you mix the product, 128 ounces in a gallon. This is a drill we used to go through years ago. You get 6 ounces of product to 122 ounces of distilled water, and that's how you get the 128. What I'll normally do is I knead the package, move it around in my hands, and if you're wondering, there's a reason we use this plastic film package. A lot of packaging methods were tried with this product. The only thing is, they don't fly very well. However, this one holds up to air travel. And then what you'll do is you'll cut this open, pour it into the container you're going to mix it in, mix, rinse your containers, and I use a measuring cup for accuracy. Now, does anybody have any questions right now? Because I've run through a lot of stuff, so ask away. Well, you guys are good. Nobody has a question?
I do have one question. If we're going to rinse the container, I guess we're going to do that with distilled water as well?
Yes, that's exactly what I do. I use my measuring cup. And this rinses very easily. Now, or did you mean rinsing your B&G when you're done? Because I use distilled water across the board with this. If I'm rinsing my sprayer afterwards, I pour a little distilled water in it, pump it up, squirt it out so my hoses are clean, and I don't use anything else to clean that sprayer. And that's been something I've done with this for a long time. My main sprayer for this, I'd gotten through Univar, stainless steel tank, and I've only cleaned it with distilled water in the year and a half that I've had it for this product. Any other questions right now? Okay, moving ahead. There's that reference once again to new sprayer. You want to pop out the filter. Now, different sprayers have filters in different places. Most of our professional units have the an inline filter. The B&G, for example, has that. You want to unscrew the end of the wand and pop out that inline, because all it's going to do is catch the particulate, and you're not going to be putting out anything for a residual. You want to use a fine fan setting, about 12 to 18 inches from the surface, and you're going to move at about 3 to 4 feet per second and try to minimize your overlap. And as we did years ago with wettables, just go ahead and frequently agitate it, shake the B&G as you're putting it out, and you're usually fine. As long as you're doing that, you're always putting out the proper amount of product. And I got to emphasize something with this. For heaven's sakes, don't over-treat with it. It's a waste of product, and if you put out too much on a fabric zone, once it dries, it almost forms a tile floor, and the insects will go over it. It's an easy fix, though. Just vacuum, and you'll break up the particulate, and you're right back to the right place. But there's no need to over-apply. I know in the past there's some chemicals we've used. We have saturated things. You don't need to do that. One pass over the treating zone, and you're fine. And I've got pictures someplace of a wooden floor next to a carpet that we sprayed one time, and the amount of particulate with one pass is absolutely amazing. There's so much out there. When you're doing this yourselves, you'll make that pass over a piece of furniture, let the overspray dry, but when you go back to wipe it off, there's going to be a huge amount there. It's really surprising. So you get plenty of coverage with one pass. Now, we've got a short application video. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start my end of the video here. And we filmed this in a hotel room a year or so ago. And what you'll see me doing is making single passes. In this particular case, it's a wood cabinet, rough wood on the inside. And I was just trying to get material deposited in those areas so as the insects go over the rough surfaces, they'll pick it up. I'm going around the outside of the drawer. And here we are just making an application to a fabric cover on one of the mattresses in the hotel. And I try to get all sides with a single pass for each zone. So I'm not doing a lot of overlapping. I'm trying to get one single pass to get an even distribution of product in those areas. We're going around the baseboard in this case because we were not allowed to remove it from the wall whatsoever. So we had to come up with a workaround. In this case, it was a very rough wallpaper material that would hold it. Here we are going into the carpeted zone where the bed would normally set because the insects will be there. A treatment on a chair, once again, single passes as much as I can over the same zone so we don't get a lot of overspray. That'll dry and the particulate will be there. Underneath the work table, pay particular attention to zones close to those brackets. Carpeted baseboard, we're going to go ahead and put some material there. And a lot of those areas would have furniture. We put a little bit underneath that luggage rack because that's the perfect place for insects. And all that particulate will cling to those fabric zones. We've got drapes, so we go ahead and do a very light application, single pass over the drapes, wherever they're touching the floor, around the edges. That way when insects crawl up and down those, they're going to get hung up in the material in that fashion as well. But this particular application took us about 40 or 45 minutes in that room. And if you're wondering why I wasn't wearing protective equipment, because normally I do, the video was thrust upon us very quickly by the hotel group. And so we went ahead and said, fine, we'll do a quick demo for you because they thought treating the room would take hours. So let me know when everybody's off and I've got my audio back.
Jeff, can you mention there was the one photo of the sprayer with the Cimi-Shield label on it? Can you mention how that works?
We can supply the Cimi-Shield labels for the sprayers, so you're properly labeled and marked. That way you know that that dedicated unit is just for Cimi-Shield, and that's always handy. In some states they require tagging as well, and I believe that'll carry your tagging requirements. Now, if we're all back on the site now, we should have a slide showing two versions of Cimi-Shield. We have the Knockout and Protect. The Knockout is for current infestations, and it is oversaturated with active ingredient. And what that means is there's more active ingredient than the particulate can possibly hold. So when we spray it out on the surface, it's hitting live insects, and they're going to be killed in just a few moments when the active coats their bodies. I mean, it's one big stress moment, and they die. Now, that's for infestations where you've got a lot of insects. The residual action is still there because, remember, you're holding product inside the particulate. If you don't need to knock down insects, or if you've used another method of primary kill, use the Protect version. The residual action is the same. Also, if you're doing preventative work, maybe you're going into a daycare center or a hotel that's never had anything, they want to start fresh and not have any issues, use the Protect version, because once it dries, the residual action is exactly the same. There's no reason to buy Knockout unless you want to knock down a live infestation. Now, once again, to go back over it, I've worked with knockout in situations we've had thousands of insects. And we've sprayed this material on the live insects, and they have boiled out of cracks and crevices and holes, and within a few moments they're dropping dead. They're all over the place. That's where you use knockout, because you've got to punch that population in the teeth fast and hard. 12-month residual with this product, and I've been in situations where I've opened up wall voids, and we've had hundreds and hundreds of eggs behind the walls stuck to the back of the wallboard. Now, Protect, on the other hand, is where I don't have to worry about killing hundreds of insects because there aren't any there. We can't detect any. We're trying to protect somebody from future infestation. In fact, in a hotel situation, you may have an infested room. You treat that with knockout, but the rooms surrounding it show no sign of infestation. Use the Protect, because once it dries, you're in exactly the same place. And this is also a very good top dressing for other primary kill methods, such as heat or cold or fume. So the difference is really oversaturation of active ingredient. Knockout has more active, it's oversaturated, Particulate can't hold it. The Protect contains just enough to fill the carriers, so the residual action is still a year. The reason for the cost difference is less active in the Protect version. Now, let's take a hotel room, for example, and of course you saw the short video. You know, you've got carpeting, the mattresses, the box springs, sometimes parts of the bed frame, bedspreads, furniture, cracks, crevices, drapes, textured wallpaper. Now, once you've done all this work, the room can be returned to service the same day. So if you're in there working in the morning and you get all that room put all back together, they can rent the room that night. You don't have to wait. It's ready to go. Because even if somebody brings in fresh insects, they're going to run right into Cimi-Shield, and in a short period of time, they're going to kill them too. Now, other suggestions for areas to treat: dormitories, hotel rooms, trains, single-family homes, nursing homes, apartments, cruise ships, theaters, airliners, buses, retail dressing rooms. And I'll make a comment about that retail dressing room thing. In some parts of the country, people are actually warned, do not bring your briefcase, your man purse, or your purse into that dressing room. Leave it with your friends outside, because when you hand it to them and you go in and undress and change clothes, chances are you could bring a guest home. And the same thing would go for the clothing that's hanging in there. So to approach retail stores and things like that with a preventative process, that could be golden. And even for accounts that are already established, this can be a fabulous add-on program for somebody. And you saw theaters listed there. I know that's becoming a problem because I've been fielding the calls about that. And I've got one here in Florida right now that's a 16-plex, and they're pulling their hair out because they've got bugs in 3 theaters already. The area is surrounded by apartment complexes. There's hundreds and hundreds of people from hundreds of residences hitting that theater every day, and the problem is spreading. And they're looking at Cimi-Shield going, this is probably our only answer. They can't fume it. Lord knows they can't heat it. It's too big. So they have to have something they can go in there and take the populations out of those armrests. And this can do it because it's not going to bother the people that come in to watch a movie. Now, as far as cost, the knockout for that 6-ounce package, which is right here in my hands, as you saw earlier, this is $1.99 for 6 ounces of the concentrate. It makes 1 finished gallon. The Protect is $1.69 for 6 ounces of concentrate. Again, 1 finished gallon. Now, each one of those gallons will treat 1,200 square feet of surface. You got to keep that surface thing in mind, because if you're going, for sake of example, through that movie theater, well, let me think. The fabric zones are the seats, and you don't have to spray the floor. You just have to treat the fabric zones. So that's going to go a lot farther than just 1,200 square feet. It's 1,200 square feet of treating area and contact surface. So a lot of this goes a long, long way. And granted, it's expensive, but frankly, a lot of things are expensive if they're very, very good, and this is. But it's got tremendous benefits with efficacy, residual. The odor issue there isn't one at all. It presents new business opportunities, no retreats, labor savings, and the product is green. But keep in mind, even though it's green, it is absolutely death to bed bugs. So while green may be safe for us, which is really what the term stands for the bed bugs, it's the worst day they're going to have. The cost benefits, you're selling a non-toxic solution with a fantastic residual. Preventative work could become a fabulous business opportunity. Hotels that don't have a problem, you can go in there now and give them peace of mind with this product. It's going to reduce or eliminate callbacks, and that's what I'm hearing from the people that are using it now, particularly on their commercial sites with nursing homes where callbacks were every day, and you're going to end up with a lot more satisfied clients. Now, you can sell three ways: protect against future infestations, knock out current ones, and I've got a note in here about using it with dust and that kind of thing, and that's appropriate because as good as Cimi-Shield is, it's a wonderful product, it's still liquid. I don't put liquid inside of a wall void, but I can treat that with some type of an appropriate dust. As a professional, you make your decisions on what you want to use. It could be any one of a number of products that Univar has right now, and they have all of them. And you can also use it as a top dressing for heat, cold, or fume. We talked about that earlier, and this gives you an option to add a guarantee to that process. Now, these are just some examples of what you might want to do. This is with Protect, selling a guaranteed no infestation. And for a hotel owner, this is wonderful because it takes away the freak-out time when somebody has threatened bed bug situations. They've got about $350 a room using Protect, and these are just examples. It's going to vary by labor rate around the country and what you want to do. The note down here, prep is always required. The most important single prep process for any work with bed bugs is vacuuming, because no matter how good the material is, you wouldn't want to put down Cimi-Shield over a bunch of dust and dirt. Get the area vacuumed first because you want the material to bind into the fabrics. By vacuuming, you also reduce a lot of the population very quickly, and that's not a bad thing. So vacuuming is critical to bed bug work regardless of what process you're using. For knockout of current infestation, once again, normal prep. You want to apply it to all the areas appropriate for the material. It's going to kill them on contact. And by the way, I just realized why I'm hearing explosions at my house. Apparently, we have a Civil War reenactment going on 2 blocks away, because every few minutes my windows shake and there's an explosion. So apparently they're firing cannons. You can apply to cracks and crevices and then use other pesticides as desired in the voids, and that's generally the best place for your dry. Top dress, other methods: heat, cold, fumigation. These 3 processes are deadly to insects. They're very, very green as well, although fumigation we might question greenness, but still, a lot of people consider it green because it leaves no residual. Now, Cimi-Shield with any of these methods is the top dressing. Do it last. Do all the other work, treat your voids, do what you're going to do, and the last thing you're going to do is treat with Cimi-Shield. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Because I ran through a bunch of other stuff. Just fire away. Yes,
SureKill, that's a green product. Some of my customers that are marketing green bed bugs have been using that. How would you compare it?
I'm not really that familiar with SureKill. I'd have to look at the label. It's not one that's come across my radar.
Would you use it with the Verify bed bug detection system?
You can use a Verify system with this if you want. The Verify system is actually pretty good. It's a little labor intensive to use it properly, but if you have a program for it, Verify does work pretty well. If you went ahead and did the treatments and everything and put out the Verify, you'd be fine, except what could happen, it's going to give you a warning that somebody brought insects in, and it's going to do that before it actually kills them with the Cimi-Shield, because once the Cimi-Shield dries, the insects will walk across it and make contact. In Dr. Brown's hotel tests, he had complete mortality on carpet treated the year before in about 13 hours, but they were confined to those sections of carpet. And with my testing I've done, I've had them take up to 2 days to die after contact with dry, which is actually very, very good. But there's one interesting thing that occurs. It seems like once the insects make contact with the Cimi-Shield dry, they lose the desire to bite people in about 6 or 7 hours. So while they may not succumb for a couple of days with the healthiest insect, the biting stops very, very quickly. And I'm hearing this even when I've treated severely infested situations where I know I've got hundreds of bugs trying to get to the person on the bed, and I was only able to get to and treat the bed. I was trying to give people relief. They didn't get bitten anymore. Even though the insects were in the room, they try to get back and forth across the bed, the biting desire goes away, and in time I could probably drain them that way. So it's an interesting product. And keep in mind, with our product, with Cimi-Shield, you don't have an odor to deal with. And a lot of the other green products have an odor that's just really intense, even the ones that are supposed to smell nice. It's just hard to deal with after a while. Anything else as far as question?
Hey, Jeff, so once, let's say you treated a hotel room, the carpet's been treated and everything, and so 3 months later, we go back, or a company goes back and treats it with regular insecticide for a non-bed bug issue. What would happen? What would happen with the mixing the, putting the pesticide on top of the Cimi-Shield?
Well, you probably won't put it on top of the Cimi-Shield, unless you were fan spraying for fleas, in which case the Cimi-Shield will kill the fleas too, by the way. So you wouldn't get a real bad flea infestation. If you applied pesticide directly to the Cimi-Shield, you'll ruin it, but chances are you're not going to apply it to the same place. I mean, I'm thinking in terms of, you go back and maybe there's a cockroach complaint in the room. If the roaches get in contact with this stuff, it'll kill them. But if you want, and so will ants for that matter.
Okay,
but
if it happens,
yeah, go ahead.
But if it did happen, what happens to the Cimi-Shield?
You would ruin it if you put pesticide directly over the top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you went in there, say with, a can of aerosol, pyrethrum pyrethroid aerosol, you blow out that wherever you sprayed it on top of. You'd probably ruin that spot of Cimi-Shield. You wouldn't take it out for the whole room, but the direct contact would kill it. I usually tell people if they want to do something to help us afterwards, especially with homeowners, I tell them just vacuum. I had this conversation with a man yesterday, and he had Cimi-Shield applied. His girlfriend, I think, may be part of the problem with bringing him back, but I said just vacuum. You're going to be just fine, because the insects have to have exposure time, and if you're constantly being introduced with new insects, it's going to take a day or two for them to die, even though the biting will stop fairly quickly. So what this stuff is designed to do is kill and prevent reinfestation. As I said before, introduction is anything. And I wish there was a way to prevent introduction, but technologically we're not there yet. And I don't know that we ever will be. Because all it takes is that next person walking in with cuffs on their pants, and they'll come right out of the cuffs of the pants and travel with them. And we all know that. Preventative work, fire stations, buses, daycare centers, movie theaters, convalescent homes. There's a lot of marketplace here. And if anybody that has movie theaters with those really nice cloth seats in your marketplace, I'd be on those right now talking to them. Because what I'm dealing with in Central Florida with one dog handler is just driving them crazy. And they know they're going to have to treat all those theaters. They're just trying to figure out the best way to do it, because it's going to be very expensive, because there's all kinds of fibers in that place, and you certainly can't heat it. It's too big, and you can't fumigate it for the same reason. So you don't have a lot of choices in some cases, and Cimi-Shield presents a very good option. Here's an example of preventatively selling a hotel room. We kind of looked at a little bit of this earlier. These figures are going to change around the country. Your man-hour figures, certainly, and the type of work you would need to do as far as preparation. So, just use that with a grain of salt. The material cost is close. It's right. It's about $56 in material on that room. The prep is critical. The hotel staff has got to be on the money with that. And you know what? If you doubt, do the prep yourselves and charge for it. We have some very good equipment available to us in this industry. Univar has all of it that you can get from them, and you may want to consider saying, we'll do the prep and charging appropriately to do it, because that way the work's done right. Because I still, today, with all the bed bug problems, go to hotel rooms, and I check every room I stay in and I look underneath, around, behind, and on top of, and I still find receipts from the pizza restaurant down the street from 2 years ago. So I know they are not taking good care of those brooms. You really have to be careful of it. Here's an example for a 2-bedroom apartment to the resident or the manager. Once again, there's a lot of variables here, but figure your man-hour rate, your material cost is pretty well fixed there at $199 for that size. And then hopefully you'll get preparation by the homeowner. And here is another place to really shine as far as being a good service industry. There's a tremendous amount of prep that we can do as professionals for these folks that makes the job more effective. And you may want to consider doing that. Because I've gone into homeowners that told me they were prepped, and I went out there with the PCO, they had the checklist, and when we got there, it still looked like a third world country. So sometimes we may want to consider doing that, because that way the Cimi-Shield is far more effective. Any other questions right now? Ask away.
So on the guarantee, is that a guarantee that y'all stand behind as well?
I know, Cameron, do we have a guarantee with that? Because we basically we sell the product. I think we leave the guarantees up to the industry.
The manufacturer and us will replace product if we feel that it didn't work, that it hasn't happened. And generally, the feeling is that anytime we troubleshoot an issue that hasn't worked and Jeff gets involved, we generally find an explanation for what went wrong. Possibly a bad application in one room, or the carpets were cleaned later. So it's few and far between, but we are willing to send out new packages of material if we feel that there was any reason it didn't work.
Yeah, we've had many questions, and the biggest question when it comes to something failed, people call us up and I try and play detective with them, and in all the cases I've dealt with, every single one of them, it was a detective issue that we had to figure out. We have found situations where people were bringing them back and forth from work on a regular basis in a briefcase, not knowing that their place of employment had a problem. We've had situations with college students coming home every few weeks and presenting mom and dad with many bags of laundry. And in the case I had recently, I knew the college and I knew how bad their infestation was at the school. And they kept bringing them into the house. We kept killing them. But the fact that they kept seeing live ones in one small area, we tracked it down to that laundry coming home from the college. And by the way, the college now uses Cimi-Shield, so they're not having any trouble anymore. Anything else as far as questions? Because we'll move along here. Get it all done, and we're going to have some type of a guaranteed process. In other words, you're going to get all the money up front for one visit, because traditional pest control jobs are cleanouts and monthly services. So we get the same money, but we're not making all the visits. And this is a bed bug product that offers a very interesting business model that we didn't have before. Now, I'm used to once-a-year services in my marketplace here in Florida, because we had firms down here that have always offered that. They go in, they do all the work up front, and so this is a little bit going back to that type of work, and the guarantees are such that the callbacks are free and people go back. And I know a properly done service, when that was still being done here in Florida on a large scale, we're talking, I think their callback rate was about 2 to 2.5 average per year. So it's a very good business model for us, but this product offers us an awful lot for bed bugs that we haven't had before.
And here's just a couple of examples comparing traditional work that we do with Cimi-Shield. And you can see cost one time for Cimi-Shield, but traditionally you're paying 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times a year, even 12, to get to the same money. The guarantee, traditionally, companies will guarantee for a month or 2. With Cimi-Shield, you can guarantee against reinfestation a year at a time. Retreatment, you're not likely to do that with Cimi-Shield. You're likely to do it with traditional materials. And keep in mind, infestations, if they're still coming in, Cimi-Shield is waiting for them. If those insects get out and try to go through those treated zones, we've got them. And if we've done the work right, the treated zones, all the areas they might have to cross to get to the bait, get to the food, which is us. If you've got uncooperative customers, and that happens, if you can see in that photo, there's a lamp in the corner and there's a kitty laying there. This shot was taken recently by a PMP
He was servicing an old folks facility, elder care center. Kitty, they couldn't move him. He didn't want to leave. He just kept creeping into corners. They were able to treat, and they weren't going to be hurting the cat at all. And I'll make a comment here about this product when it comes to animals. We have, at our home here in Florida, one cat that was particularly susceptible to fleas. Over the course of every summer, he looked like a well-worn homeless person's jacket. He was missing hair all over. In May of this year, we took this product in its animal version, which is virtually the same product. My wife held down the cat, and I sprayed the cat and rubbed it into his fur. That animal has had a full coat of hair ever since May, and he's happy and he's alive. It didn't hurt him in any way, shape, or form, and he's been one happy kitty all summer. So any questions right now? Because we've rolled through a bunch more material. Anything at all? Okay, we'll continue. Now, benefits to the client. You're back in service the same day. Hotels, this is extremely valuable. When the kids get home from school, if you've been out there working all day, everybody's happy at the end of the day and the home is theirs again. There's no odor issue. If customers have to be there during service, that's fine. I would certainly keep them out of the way so nothing falls on them if you're moving furniture. If by chance a child comes into contact with wet material or the pet, they're not going to be hurt. It's fine. And the single visit by a pest control operator for this process, instead of 3 to 6 times a year, is golden for us. Now let's look at some of these testimonials real quick. This is Bob Wagner in Phoenix, and he said, "We have been really pleased with the results that we have attained with this product combined with our protocols. It did require a little bit of innovation on both parts, but we feel we have a good partner with the product. Our results have been outstanding. In the instances we have used Cimi-Shield, we've achieved 100% control." Here's another one. This is Donna Miller, and she is the director of the homeless shelter that was treated in Southern California under a grant program with us. The benefit was felt immediately. Prior to the treatment, we had logged many bite complaints every week. Since the Cimi-Shield application, our log book is virtually empty. Now, I'll make a comment here about this product. One thing that we have noticed is 6 to 7 hours after exposure to the dry residual, even though the insects may move around for a couple of days, 6 to 7 hours after exposure, they appear to stop biting. And this is one reason I believe the homeless center was getting relief so quickly, because their introduction was daily. And I have a homeless center here in Florida that we'll be handling very soon. It's huge. And they're bringing bed bugs into that place every single day. They're picking people up on the street. The people are coming in for a meal. They're in their backpacks. They're in their clothing. But they have to sleep there. And so we're trying to come up with processes to make it easier for these homeless centers. And Cimi-Shield has been marvelous in helping to keep these people from being eaten alive while all they're doing is seeking shelter. Bob Lees from earlier, I don't get callbacks, just calls to treat more places. Word of mouth here, folks. Testimonials from your own customers telling their friends will get you more work. And the man I was on the phone with today from New York City said he's facing this problem and he's so busy he doesn't know what to do because he keeps getting calls from people's friends. Now, this testimonial is very dear to my heart. This is from Bill Hill, and Bill is the owner of the Orkin franchise in Gainesville, Florida. This man was my sales trainer 40-some-odd years ago. And what he says here, we service a kidney dialysis facility where the critically ill and often elderly patients are transported in daily from other facilities or residences. Along with the patients, there was a daily influx of bed bugs. I went out to this site and saw it. They were bringing in people that were infirmed, wrapped in blankets and just a bundle of flesh they would hook up to the machines. The bed bugs were falling off and getting under the chairs. And it says here we needed not only an effective green treatment, but a non-toxic residual. You've got compromised people here. You've got to find a way to protect them without endangering them with the pesticide. And it says Cimi-Shield solved the problem, and there have been no callbacks or reoccurrence. We've used this product in homes, hotel rooms, and apartments with equal success. The fact that the product is green, non-toxic, and effective makes it an ideal choice for broad spectrum applications without having to worry about the potential harm to humans, animals, or the environment. The year-long residual reduces callbacks and gives our clients peace of mind. That kidney dialysis center also had a cockroach problem, and after we treated it with the Cimi-Shield, they were done too, because we were doing a crack and crevice service. There wasn't a lot of fabric, but the bed bugs were crawling down the lines coming off the chairs, the electro connections and such, and getting into the cracks and crevices around the equipment built into the wall and into the bases of the chairs and such. And so by doing a careful crack and crevice service into those zones, there was also a German cockroach problem, and they disappeared as well. So there are more insects that can be treated with this material. Here's another testimonial, and this gentleman is from South Florida. He is a pest control operator. My customer had several previous pest control professionals, including the name brands, to get rid of a bed bug infestation in their shelter facility. I use Cimi-Shield exclusively. My customer said I was his hero. And this man is a long-term user of the product. I believe Dennis started with it in 2009. This is an executive director of a halfway house in Massachusetts. And Paul Dacey of ESP has used many different products over the years in our facility, but the story was always the same. After a few weeks, the biting resumed. With Cimi-Shield, we are now more than 3 months in, and our residents are simply not being bitten. They're constantly have an insect problem coming in because that's the nature of a shelter. We feel such relief and are thankful for ESP for bringing this great product to our attention. We're protecting people here, making their lives easier. Mary Wood manages a hotel, and she said, we treated our entire hotel and have been infestation-free. And notice that this is Super 8. So it's a common mid-priced hotel, and you get a variety of different types of folks in there, and she's not had an issue. We do have a website, Cimi-Shield.com, and current information about the products as well as testimonials and stories are being put onto this site every few days. And I believe Cameron had just added some more material today. We have videos there. You can watch my little video of me killing a bed bug with the material. And it took me 2 days to film that because trying to get a camera and a bed bug and Cimi-Shield all in the same place in a very small area took some ingenuity, but we figured it out. And you can also see the full treatment of that hotel room that we did with all the owners watching us. So at this point, does anybody have any questions whatsoever?
I have one.
Yes.
It's used for fabrics, and how do things like vacuuming or laundering affect the residual effect?
Laundering or washing will remove the product completely the same way as it would soil because you're removing the particulate. However, vacuuming won't bother it because it's too enmeshed in the fabric to pull it all out. And so what we encourage people to do, if they want to do something to help us, a homeowner, tell them to vacuum. Because that is just going to simply pick up dead bodies, possibly live insects that were just introduced, but it will not hurt the material. The thing we don't want them to do is to wash things. And you brought up a very good point, because when we go into facilities, we need to interview before we begin our processes, because what could be worse than going into a home that has an infestation and the next week they have Stanley Steamer come out because they thought they better clean the carpeting and everything and wash the furniture. I would rather they do that beforehand so they don't pull the Cimi-Shield out. So you brought up a very good question there. Anything else? Wow. Either I explained it well or you guys all signed out on me, one of the two.
For those of you listening, we want to really make sure that we are very clear on, if you want to think about using this in the field, things you need to overcome, any considerations. So please ask any questions you have. Jeff is available. You have, I think, the next slide, Jeff, is your phone number.
Yeah. Yes,
Jeff,
we do. That's our support.
Yeah, this is how you get hold of me or Jeff, but Jeff is the most knowledgeable. You can call him from the job site. You can describe a job that you're thinking about doing and what else has been done, and he is going to be a great wealth of information for you to go out and maybe be a little more successful than you might have been. But the nice thing about this product is it is really easy to apply. It's really hard to make a mistake with it. And so, you know, most of our customers that have tried it have had great luck on the first time. So continue to please ask questions of Jeff before we wrap this up.
Anything else, guys? I guess it's Friday afternoon and they all want to head to the tavern, I guess, Cameron. They're busy.
All right,
quitting
folks.
time in part of the country.
All right, everybody, we're going to take that as that we are concluded. Thank you all so much for listening in. Hope it was useful to you, and we look forward to talking to you more in the future. Thanks,
folks.